Hey, what's going on, everybody? I am so excited for today's LinkedIn Live. I've got a very special guest, somebody I've been connected with for a long, long time, and an authority in what we are going to be discussing today, which is personal branding on LinkedIn. Clearly, anybody tuned in live right now is active on LinkedIn. That's why you're here. So we are going to go through some of the practical steps. You know, there are some people who are active on the platform reading other people's content, but just don't feel confident to get out there and speak for themselves. Some people who might not be as active as they'd like to be because they know their profile needs work. We're going to cover all of that. And I mean, again, I'm so excited. I know there's a lot of people from my network tuned in right now. So some of you might not know Chelsea Crossed. Chelsea Crossed is one of the top LinkedIn learning instructors that they have on the platform. A lot of her courses are specifically focused on personal branding. The vast, part of your career has been focused on personal branding. You are a personal branding coach. You are a marketing coach. You have, I'm not going to read your entire resume because it would take half the session. But what I will say is, I mean, Chelsea is, widely known as an authority in this space. You've been on the Today Show. You've been on Good Morning America. You've been on the Wendy Williams Show. You've been on Bloomberg. I mean, Chelsea, I don't know where you haven't been. Started out, I mean, you came onto the scene when you were 16 years old with your own radio show. You and I got connected over the years, and I just celebrated my company's 10-year anniversary. You and I were connected before I even launched this company.
I was going to say, I think we're past the decade point, Brian. Yeah.
When we were chit-chatting before this, I told you I missed your LinkedIn, or I'm sorry, your Twitter millennial chat conversations that I would participate in for years. And now we're going to talk certainly about what you're up to. And I think that's a good lead in, Chelsea, for you to introduce yourself to everybody tuned in right now. And if you could talk a little bit about your story, your career, in the context of the role that LinkedIn has played in it, I think that's a great place to jump in.
Totally. Well, first of all, thank you so much for having me here today, Brian. Nice to meet anybody new. And I love LinkedIn so much. And LinkedIn has been one of my favorite channels now for, I would say, a good 5-6 years, where a lot of my energy and attention used to be on Twitter. And that really transitioned to LinkedIn. And, the long story short is that I did start a radio talk show when I was 16 years old. I'm 33 now, so half my life ago. And little did I know it was going to be the snowball to this incredible career that I could have never have imagined. Because let me tell you, back in 2007, 2008, the iPhone was in its infancy. It was MySpace, and you had to have an EDU college address to have a Facebook account. So, I mean, we were talking a totally different era. And my ultimate way of creating a platform and impact was local AM radio. And here we are flipping on StreamYard, live streaming to everyone here on LinkedIn. So, I mean, times have really changed. And that radio show was the catalyst to my career. And ultimately doing a lot of brand placement, a lot of brand deals, a lot, influencer marketing before influencer marketing. And really my passion was always fueling the entrepreneur. I was working with big brands, Kotex and Target and IBM and Microsoft, but I really was missing the person-to-person connection. And when I was on the speaker circuit, I think Brian's going to rejoin us. When I was on the speaker circuit, I realized that, who was lining up around the stage after I was done talking? It was the entrepreneurs in the room. And I wanted to work directly more one-on-one with the entrepreneurs. And that really was the catalyst behind launching my coaching platform. And it's been an incredible 7 years now of individually coaching entrepreneurs and small business owners. I just kept going, Brian. while you were logging back in. And in 2018 is when I got an email from LinkedIn asking if I would create a marketing to millennials course and a learning personal branding course. And honestly, Brian, not until 2018 did anyone or any client or any opportunity even use the term personal branding. Like, Chelsea, you've been building your personal brand since you were 16 years old. Can you create a course that helps other people do this? And I was like, wow, now we're on to something. And I really was able to reverse engineer all the steps that I personally took, and realize that there was an actual formula to building a personal brand. And so 2019 Learning Personal Branding course was launched. 2020, it was a top 20 global performer. 2021, it was a top 20 global performer, and almost 3 million people have moved through that one course. So it's converted into 6 different languages. And that's just also showing and telling the power of personal branding, right? Like, everybody is really on to the trend of, oh, hey, I need a personal brand. I need a digital footprint to come along with my small business, big business, and or side hustle even. And I think that's a testament to the power of the person behind the business, because we are craving human connection in this very techie digital society, and the personal brand element humanizes the business. So love personal branding, can talk about it all day, but that's like my little cliff notes to, you know, how I really popped on LinkedIn.
Yeah, amazing. And by the way, I will watch the replay to see what I missed. Live, live streaming is never boring. So
always stuff it.
well, Chelsea, no, I appreciate you giving your backstory, and that's going to be a good pivot then when we do get into practical tips. People just heard your story of the role that LinkedIn has played in your growth, in your brand, and I think a lot of people watching right now are going to be hungry to apply some of that in a practical manner, to elevate their careers, whether they're looking for a new job, whether they just launched a business, whether they're launching a side hustle, whatever it is. Certainly, anytime you are the face of what you're trying to accomplish, a business, if you're in sales, clearly your face and your presence matters. People like doing business with people they like and know. So we're going to get into all that. Before we do, I'll talk a little bit about my story. I'm sure a lot of people tuned in know me or have come across me in the past. There's probably a couple who don't. So my whole career has been in public relations, and I do specialize in the finance sector. And while I'm not exclusive to that, when we do get into practical steps, I'm going to talk a little bit about what I see finance pros. And when I talk about finance pros, a lot of it's going to be applicable to professional services professionals more broadly, and even a little bit of B2B. So I started, my LinkedIn journey started probably my senior year of college. When you're like, wow, I'm going to need to get a job. The clock's ticking now. I'm getting ready for the real world. So I probably got on LinkedIn maybe my junior year of college, as I was getting into some internships and whatnot. Now, it started off small. I mean, for anybody who might be in that situation listening now, whether you have not graduated yet, or maybe you just graduated and you realize, wow, I need to at least build some kind of presence on LinkedIn. In the beginning, it's going to be a lot to soak in. It's not like other social media platforms that you have been exposed to. And that was my reaction back then. And LinkedIn was a lot more simple back then. There's a lot more layers to it now than there was,
Yeah.
I'm not going to age myself. It's been a minute. Back when I was building it. So it did start off small, with my connections, but was able to build some kind of professional presence on there, was able to, I started my career in financial services, pivoted to working at a New York and New Jersey based public relations firm. And then from there, I got to a point where I was ready to go off on my own and spun off and started my business almost exactly 10 years ago. I celebrated my 10-year anniversary about 2 weeks ago.
Awesome.
And we're going to revisit that too when we get into practical steps, because I put out a post to commemorate that 10-year mark that got a lot of attraction. People wonder, they post things like that and they wonder why nobody's clicking on it. I want to go through some of the nuances that I went through with that specific post that really worked and played well with the LinkedIn crowd and got lots of impressions, lots of engagement. Now, in public relations, I'm a big believer and advocate for a concept called credibility marketing. Credibility marketing directly applies to LinkedIn activity. Credibility marketing is the whole concept of earning and leveraging third-party credibility. Earning it's through PR. We talked about Chelsea's resume earlier. I mean, Chelsea has been everywhere in the media. Myself, I've been, on news, especially in recent years, a lot locally. I've written for big publications. I've been quoted in, everywhere up to the New York Times throughout my career, have won industry recognition. All of that is third-party credibility. But earning third-party credibility, if you don't do anything with it, that's just publicity.
Right.
People who hire me, people who are paying my retainer every month, they're not hiring me for publicity. They want real tangible outcomes. So PR without a process to leverage it is just publicity. But when you do have processes to leverage it, and LinkedIn is a powerful platform to leverage it, that's when you bring it all together, and that's credibility marketing. That's what pushes the needle.
Yes.
So that's a little bit about my background, and I think that's a good segue into talking about practical steps that people can take away from this. Chelsea, I'm gonna leave it open-ended. Talk to me. What works, what doesn't?
Well, and you mentioned something really important if you're looking for a job, if you're starting a new business. So first of all, let's debunk the myth that personal branding is only for the business owner, right? Or the entrepreneur. That might have been the case 5 years ago, but not in 2024. Personal branding is incredibly essential and effective for the employee as well. We are seeing companies more than ever leveraging their employee personal brands in their overall marketing strategy. And as an employee, having an established digital footprint, having an engaged network is an asset to your employer. And it makes you more of an indispensable asset, which makes you gives you more of a prime opportunity to also get a job promotion, a job raise, or additional opportunities, like you're the one that gets sent to the marketing events or hosts a live stream, and more of the creative outlet or networking opportunities. So for the employee, it's just as important and effective as it is for the business owner. But of course, whether you're the employee or the business owner, that's going to have a different strategy, right? Because the employee is going to focus more on building expertise and thought leadership in the industry that they work for, right? So if you're in healthcare, right? So your content's going to be about healthcare trends, new techniques, new studies, anything that you're doing at the company in pioneering new things within healthcare, right? Reposting trending articles, sharing your thoughts and opinions, brand awareness, building credibility, building thought leadership, networking, great asset to the company, right? If you are a business owner, then it's really important for you to really know who your target audience is. Who is your ideal client or customer? That's like priority number one, right? Who are you speaking to? Okay. And then that really helps to connect the dots in helping you create content that speaks to that audience, right? Because you're as a business owner, you're going to come with your own expertise in whatever industry you are, but you want to create content that's going to speak to your ideal client and customer and network. So that's really essential. It's kind of like, all right, what is my goal for personal brand development, right? And everybody's goal needs to start at step one, which is really getting clear on your who, what, where, when, why. Who are you? What expertise do you bring to the table? What experience do you have to make your expertise credible, right? And the who is also, who are you trying to speak to? The what is, what are you offering, right? Like, what services are you offering as a business owner, right? Make it very clear. What services do you provide? What are the solutions that you provide, right? Speak to your ideal customers' pain points, right? The what. Who, what, where is your audience most active? We're all here on LinkedIn, so I'm assuming that we know that our audience is here on LinkedIn. I'm a very big proponent on not spreading yourself too thin. I do think that everybody should be on LinkedIn who's a career professional or a business owner, but most likely your target audience is probably on other channels. So what are the 3 primary channels that your audience is on? And dominate those 3 channels. Back in the day when Brian and I were, 10 years ago, really starting, you had to be everywhere. And it was so overwhelming to be everywhere. And now I do believe that niching down and becoming an expert at 3 channels is going to be way more effective than you trying to be okay everywhere versus dominate on the 3 primary channels. So that's where, who, what, where. When, okay, when is important because a lot of people go, okay, I'm going to be present on LinkedIn. I'm going to post. Well, when are you going to post? Do you have a content calendar that's going to keep the when accountable? Are you familiar with when your audience is most active on LinkedIn? Are you familiar with when the most ideal time to go live is, right? So these are all understanding your audience analytics, which LinkedIn gives you very digestible and understandable analytics that you can really you could track some patterns of like, oh, I'm realizing that I'm getting really good engagement on Tuesdays, so I'm not going to post my best post on Monday. Right. And I think one of the things that I've seen is that I get a lot of great engagement on Saturday and Sunday, which are not, the business week. So really understanding when your audience is most active. Who, what, where, when, why? What is your why? Why do you show up every day? Why do you want to do what you do? The why is what connects you to your audience. Your why is what can move the needle for someone choosing you over your competitor. If you're not clear about your why, how is your customer or your ideal client going to understand why they should choose you?
And Chelsea, where is this communicated?
Your who,
the profile, the posts, all of the above?
Well, first of all, you need to define your who, what, where, when, why for yourself.
Yeah.
That's like a great exercise to move through for yourself. This helps you refine what you then put on your LinkedIn About summary, what you put in your headline. If there's specific copy that you want to put in your banner on LinkedIn, because I think your banner is prime real estate, right? People are going to see your banner and your headline before they even decide to scroll down to see your About summary. So maximize that prime real estate, your LinkedIn banner and your headline, right? And in your banner, you can really speak directly to your customer or client. And your banner can always change depending on what your marketing goals are right at the time. Maybe you're launching a new program, maybe you're rolling out a new service offering, maybe you want to announce that your course just hit top performer, right? So you could really, again, use that banner for credibility, to establish thought leadership, and really to establish your expertise. Again, sharing the, helping for someone to go, oh, Chelsea really knows what she's doing. I want to work with Chelsea, right? or I want to continue to scroll more down her profile because I'm already impressed by what her banner and her headline says. So your who, what, where, when, why is a great exercise for yourself because honestly, Brian, I think a lot of people don't really know their who, what, where, when, why. And they're just spinning their circles and kind of rolling on the hamster wheel, going kind of going nowhere fast. So I tend to see a lot of people need to just take a step back before they move forward. And that's okay. That is okay. And guess what? Your who, what, where, when, why can also evolve over time, right? Because if it doesn't evolve, then are you evolving? Is your business evolving? Are you growing, right? So it's okay to evolve. It's great to evolve. And the more clear you are on the who, what, where, when, why, the more clear your branding and marketing and copy and messaging will be to your ideal customer or client. And then you get to translate that all to your LinkedIn profile as well as your content strategy.
Yeah, I love that. And I mean, the foundation of the presence, again, I agree. Get the mindset first, before you take a look at that, before you start tinkering with that profile, take a look at that who, what, when, where, why. Make sure that you as a professional identify with what you're building. Make sure that it represents who you are and has elements of who you want to be. And how you want to be perceived and how you want to distinguish yourself in your field. Now, another piece, once you've got that foundation, is certainly building engagement.
Yes.
Having that foundation is crucial. Putting out good content that reflects who you are is good. But if nobody's engaging with it, you're going to run into some problems. And I'll tell you how I view that, because I do break that down into kind of 3 layers. At the foundation of it is credibility. And the credibility piece starts with the profile, and it starts with what you do on LinkedIn and outside of LinkedIn. And making sure those accolades outside of LinkedIn are being communicated on LinkedIn, that people know that you are respected for what you do, that you are accomplished, that you are proficient at what you do. So without credibility, you're not going to get any of the other layers. So start with credibility. Second is relevance. Once you've got credibility, you want to be relevant. You want people seeing and engaging with your post. Relevance starts with your own network. I've had clients in the past who I'll get them great press. They'll share it on LinkedIn and they'll be like, well, Brian, nobody engaged with it. I'll say, well, that's because you have 100 connections. How many people do you expect to see this?
Right. And I also think that, Brian, people expect too much too soon. So let's manage our own expectations. If you haven't posted consistently for at least 3 to 6 months, don't expect a lot of engagement right away. And don't let that lack of engagement deter you and not make you show up the next day, right? And I have a top performing global course on LinkedIn, and sometimes my posts don't get that much like and engagements. So people are very weird, I think, when it comes to engagement. A lot of people engage with me on the LinkedIn Learning platform. But again, don't let the likes and engagement, especially when you're starting, be the reason why you don't stay consistent. Give it 3 to 6 months, see what posts are working best, see what posts are getting the most engagement, realize what time in the day and what day you're posting, and do more of what's working for the next 3 to 6 months.
Totally. Establishing that relevance is great because, again, you can have credibility, but to take that next step, you have to establish relevance. That means start off with, hey, listen, if you're sitting there and you're like, okay, well, I only have 200 connections. Okay, if you're going to see meaningful engagement, you got to boost that up. Look at everybody you've ever worked with in your career. Look at, if you're just in college or getting out of college, look at your classmates. Listen, your classmates are going to be running the world if you're in college right now. Mine are. or they're at least running Philadelphia. So seriously, connect with those classmates on LinkedIn. Get them into your network early and stay engaged and connected with them. That's all part of being relevant.
Yeah.
If you are not actively connecting with the people you know, that's a problem. I mean, that's going to be a barrier to you seeing any type of tangible result.
Yeah. And I want to add to that, Brian. I want to add to that because I think we all get a little narcissistic of like, what am I posting? What am I sharing? What kind of likes and engagement am I getting? Okay. But social media is called social media. It's a two-way dialogue. So don't just be posting, also be commenting and liking other people's content that you want to network with. Because guess what? That's how people learn about you. Oh, who is this Chelsea that I see dropping some golden nuggets on my article, right? So the more you're also engaging, you're going to help boost your engagement back.
100%. Well, and that's a great pivot or segue then into the third piece of the puzzle, which is influence. All right. You need credibility first, then relevance, then influence is what you can aspire to. That's
Right.
what a lot of people probably tuned in aspire to. They want their content to motivate action and engagement. Once you have that last piece, that influence piece to the puzzle, you're there. Now you are going to have a very impactful presence on LinkedIn. But you can't start there.
Right.
And there aren't shortcuts. And in my field, I work with a lot of these wealth management professionals. There are these vendors out there who will say, oh, we'll automate your LinkedIn presence. And they take control of the accounts and just have them spamming out an article every day, an article that the client didn't write. They didn't write this, the little blurb with it. They didn't do anything. And LinkedIn users are not stupid, okay? Anybody watching right now, we are all LinkedIn users, not stupid people, okay? You can see clear spam material a mile away. You know it, and it convinces us to ignore it. So, Chelsea, before we jump, we talked about some of these people need to do less, get more, automate and spamming. You are undermining, you're under all the things C and I have been talking about.
Yes.
Building the brand yourself. You're yourself as in span. You're achieving professional brand, and people losing respect for you.
Yeah,
in my opinion.
And Brian, just to give you a heads up, you were getting a little glitchy again, but you could understand the concept of what you were saying, but which was don't spam your accounts thinking that's a great spam, meaning posting every day, kind of like billboard, like client content. I call it that the billboard content. Like when you're driving on the highway, are you really looking at every billboard? No, you're not going to do that on LinkedIn either. You want engaging, storytelling, more nurturing type of content. And to that point, posting every day can actually work against you versus help you. And that was something I really started to notice over the past year, is that posting 3 times a week was actually a better strategy. And one of my very successful clients who is killing it on engagement, I realized he was cannibalizing his engagement because he was posting every day. And he was like, what? Don't post every day. And I was like, trust me, let's try it for 1 week. And his engagement went up over 30% in the first week of doing it. So yeah, which also should be like a win, because it's less content that you have to create. So if you have like a Monday, Wednesday, Friday content strategy, use Tuesday and Thursday as just engaging on LinkedIn. So you get so that you get like the posting in, but you also take the time to do the engaging, right? The networking, the liking, the commenting, do you want to add? Are there any DMs you want to send? So you can have like an on, off, kind of content strategy for the week.
Yeah, amazing. Chelsea, that half hour flew by. There was another topic we were going to get to. We're not getting into it today. You're going to have to come back on. But before we do wrap up, Chelsea, again, I'm sure there's some folks on my network who would love to know how they can engage you, how they can connect with you, how's the best way to find you and reach you?
Well, my LinkedIn is at Chelsea Cross, and I love connecting with new people. If you are, please send a note like saw you on Brian's live, because sometimes those connections get really large, and I always like knowing who came from where. And we have been talking about this great resource, my personal branding course. So if you have LinkedIn Premium, you already have access to my course, Learning Personal Branding, for free. If you don't have LinkedIn Premium, then you can purchase the course a la carte, and it's like less than $30. So it's a no-brainer course, because one, you could probably sit down for an hour and a half and do the whole thing in one sitting. And there is so much great content in there from the course, especially if you are really committed to building your personal brand right now. I also have How to Work Smarter, Not Harder, which is great for people who are digital entrepreneurs. And brand strategy and reputation management is another one. So all really great resources for you. You could just type my name into LinkedIn Learning, Chelsea Cross, to find my courses, but they're all available for you, really low ticket cost, which makes me very happy to be able to, get it to the masses versus working one-on-one with me. It's going to be a little bit more expensive, but I really do post a lot of great content on LinkedIn. And again, please connect with me. I love connecting with like-minded hustlers.
Chelsea Cross, thanks so much for joining. Everybody who tuned in, thanks so much for listening. I'll be back at you next month. Thanks so much.